Good morning, everyone. Well, actually, good afternoon, and welcome to Empowering Pastors Leadership Training. We're incredibly excited you could join us here in person and also online. As you can tell, Pastor Spencer is not here today, but we do have a great guest speaker for you. But before I introduce that guest speaker, I want to make sure that you have registered for the Empower Summit coming up in just only 6 days. You can go to empoweringpastors.com, and we have 3 dynamic speakers for you. Bishop Rick Thomas, who will actually be here at his tabernacle this Sunday. We also have Pastor Larry Stockstill and also Dr. Michael Spencer as well. We want to make sure that you log on to empoweringpastors.com and get signed up today. We have the night session for Monday, and then for Tuesday and Wednesday, you're going to have both the morning and the night sessions. So make sure that you get signed up right now, empoweringpastors.com. Now I want to introduce our guest speaker for today. His name is Minister Jeff Redner. He is a very accomplished businessman. He's also just newly started a new consulting and business group that's called Resonance Group. I'm sure we'll be talking about that a little bit more. But let's get ready just to learn from him. So, Mr. Redner.
Good afternoon, everybody. I think I was the first one to register for Empowering Pastors. As soon as it came up, I registered just out of honor. If you haven't registered yet, do it. You don't want to miss it. Today's going to be an interesting class. I'm going to talk a little bit about the coaching process, but the first thing I want to do, because I have an audience, is tell everybody a little bit about my 5 non-negotiables. Some of you are saying, we already know them. You've already heard them. Some of you heard them 5 times. Some of you heard them 10 times. Some of you haven't heard them, but it's anytime I get an audience, I tell you about what made me successful. What do I get out of bed for in the morning? You know, what do I lead my life around? It's my 5 non-negotiables. But I want to tell you one thing first, and I haven't really ever told anybody this. When I was a kid, when I dropped out of school in the 10th grade, in the first week of the 10th grade, I wasn't paying any attention to the non-negotiables. When I was in jail in a foreign country, I was not paying any attention to the non-negotiables. When I was homeless, I wasn't paying attention to the non-negotiables. I was living on a roof at night, sleeping on a roof, and down in the streets during the day. That's right, Minister Dykes. I didn't care about the 5 non-negotiables. But you know what? I had this dream in me. I really did. I had this dream in me, but I just didn't know how to get there. It was a struggle. I didn't know how to get there. I was programmed one way. I had the dream here. It was horrible. Didn't know how to do it. Until one day, guess what happened? I got saved. I got saved when I was 29, 30 years old, and I learned the 5 non-negotiables. So I want to share with you today what they are. Number 1 non-negotiable is to lead myself well. Before I can ever lead others, I have to lead myself. I have to believe that I can have an impact with others, right? Right. Everything rises and falls on leadership. Am I correct? Right. That's why we're here. If I want my people to go higher, I have to go higher first. Yes. We all agree with that, right? Yes. The law of the lid. Everybody remember the law of the lid? As I go up, my people go up. If I don't go up, my people stay down, or I lose my people. I have to invest in myself daily. The key is I have to allow the people around me to catch me investing in myself. That's the key. I have to allow the people that work for me, the people that I lead, they have to catch me investing in myself every day. So number 2, does anybody know him? Number 2, Pastor Dan? Come on now. Number 2 is know your people. Abe Lincoln said, I don't like that man, so I must get to know him. He wanted to make a difference. If we want to know our people, we have to study our people. Our people are all different. They have different motivations, different behaviors, different gifts, different talents. If we want to have them involved in our vision, we have to study them and be able to tell how to use them, how to make them valuable in our vision. Number 3, love your people. John Maxwell says, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. You believe it?
That's true.
Yeah. Love is a key role with the people involved in my vision. What I've done is I've created love so that they're willing to follow me anywhere. I have guys that would do bad things just because they love me. I wouldn't want them to do bad things, but they would. They've made that clear. Number 4 is add value to people. John Maxwell says, success is adding value to myself. Significance is adding value to somebody else. Do you believe it? The best investment I can make as leader is not in the building, not in tools, but it's in the people. A team's greatest resources is always the people. Number 5, cast your vision. What's the Bible say about vision? Without vision, the people perish. Another version says, without vision, the people stumble all over themselves. Another says, without vision, the people cast off restraint. So it makes it clear, you are casting vision. But what vision are you casting? Be careful. Every day you're casting vision. So be careful the vision that you're casting. But people will follow you. They'll follow you where you want to go if you cast that vision, cast it high. So really what I want to talk about today, and I didn't bring notes because I really didn't want you to have them. I want you to take notes, but don't take notes about what I say. Take notes about what you think about after I say it. Okay? A good teacher protects his people from his own influence. Bruce Lee said that. Anybody want to say why?
Can you say that again?
A good teacher protects his people from his own influence.
I think probably because a good teacher wants to pull out the inside of a person and not have them like be a copycat of.
Exactly. A good teacher wants to pull out from the person, not have them be them, but have them be who they are. Mark Twain said, education consists mainly of what we have unlearned. It's true. When I got saved, I was 30 years old. That was 25 years ago. Okay? For the last 25 years, as I'm growing, the only way I'm growing is by unlearning everything that I learned the first prior 30 years. Because those are the things that kept me back. If I wanted to grow, I had to unlearn. So highly successful people are willing to unlearn. Are you all willing to unlearn?
Yes.
Y'all want to be successful?
Yes.
Okay, we're programmed what to think rather than how we think. Think about it. As children, we grow up, we're not taught how to think. We're taught what to think. Okay, and that was me, as I shared with you guys earlier. That was me. I had this dream inside me, but I didn't know how to get to it. Okay, I had to find another way. I had to reinvent myself. I had to unlearn everything that I'd learned to that point to start growing and going forward. I was driving. Anybody know who Harry Chapin is?
Mm-hmm.
We're dated here. Okay, I was down in Florida a couple of days riding my Harley, and I was thinking about this. I was thinking about how we're programmed, and this song came on, Harry Chapin. I thought it was James Taylor, but I looked it up. It's Harry Chapin. Cats in the Cradle.
Yes.
Anybody know it?
Yeah.
Cats in the cradle and the silver spoon. Little boy blue and the man in the moon. When you're coming home, Dad, I don't know when. Who knows the song? It's a great song. You know what it's about? It's about exactly what I'm talking about now. It's about time going by, a boy becoming just like his father. Time goes by, he has another child, and time goes by. Nothing changes, okay? Just the time. I was listening to Jensen Franklin the other day, and he was talking about New Zealand. He was talking about 45% of the birds in New Zealand don't fly. They walk around. She said scientists proved that these birds used to fly, but because there's no predators there, they quit flying. So they forgot how to fly. Their wings actually started to disappear. They would have stubs. And I think, this is what happens to our gifts, our talents, and our dreams when we don't use them. When we don't unlearn what we've already learned, we start to lose them. Think about it. Most people are willing to surrender their dreams for what's familiar to them. Going back, You know, in my life, I had some success in the mid-20s, but every time I got successful, it's like the easy button on Staples. Instead of the easy button, it's the self-destruct button. I go over, hit that button, go right back to where I knew, you know, where I was comfortable. It's funny how we're comfortable in those situations. But, you know, you're out into a new place, I just run back. Move forward, stop, go back. Move forward, stop, go back. So what's influencing your thinking today? You know, what is it? You stop and think about it. Who's a mom and dad in here? Who's a grandpa? Who plans on having children? Who plans on mentoring a child? So everybody's hand's been raised here. Okay, but stop and think about the influence that are on these children as they grow up, especially today. You know, it's not just from their parents, what they're learning from their parents, but stop and think about what they're learning in the schools. Stop and think about what they're learning when they turn the news on. Stop and think about what they're learning on social media. They're being programmed, okay? The news just wants you to rely on the government. They don't want you to have your gifts, your talents, your dreams. They want you to rely on the government. Am I right?
Yeah.
I know I'm right. So stop and think about it. So it's very valuable with the time that you spend with your children, with your grandchildren, with your nieces, your nephews, what you speak to them, what you say to them, and how you teach them. It's very important. I look back on myself and say, you know what? I didn't say all the right things. It was because of how I was programmed. You know, so now when I talk to my children, I try to use a different verbiage, okay? I try to encourage, you know, instead of saying the same old thing. When I had those dreams, nobody believed in me. You know, I talked about it with people, and I had a lot of dream killers. Well, how are you going to do that? You know, nah, you'll never make that. You'll never be able to accomplish that. Where are you going to get the money to do that? Dream killers. That's all they were. That's the programming. So I want to talk to you a little bit, we're not even there yet, about the coaching process. Okay? The coaching process, and I've had the privilege of actually being under the tutelage for the last 6 months of the greatest coach I think there is, and it's not John Maxwell, but it's Christian Simpson, who works for John Maxwell. He's a tremendous coach, but what he's taught me is there's 3 different phases of, I would say, consulting. There's a consultant, there's a mentor, and there's a coach, okay? A mentor basically teaches you from his wisdom, okay, where he's been. Not necessarily what he's done, but where he's been. He encourages you, he's your mentor. A consultant will teach you based on their experience, okay? If they don't have an experience with this, then they can't really consult you. They can give you advice, maybe mentor you, but they can't consult you. A coach does none of that. Does anybody know what a coach does or want to say what his job is? A coach's job is to extract what's in you out, okay? Because everybody has it in them, okay? God planted it there, right? So his job is to extract that out of you. If he does anything different, then he's interfering, like Bruce Lee said. You know, he had a lot of wisdom, Bruce Lee. Could you imagine if he was a Christian? I mean, he was a very wise, talented man. Same with Mark Twain. But his job is to extract out of you all your needs, all your goals, what you want to do with your life. It's there. He just pulls it out. So he brings out self-discovery. He takes care of limiting beliefs, because what happens is he'll just ask you questions, and what's already inside you, you make that decision on your own. That's why I didn't want you taking notes, or I didn't want to give you notes, because if I give you all the notes, you're just reading what I'm saying. Okay? But if you're hearing what I'm saying and then you're thinking about how it applies to your life, that's really what a coach's job is to extract that out of you. Am I in agreement? Yeah. If you make the decision you're more likely to follow that decision. I can tell you, and you can say, well, you'll be like me. Stop, hit the button, go back, because somebody else made the decision. But if you make it, then I can hold you accountable to that as your coach. Okay, he brings accountability in. So this is really what brings transformation to a person, is extracting it out of them. So what I really want to talk about today is the gaps in leadership. Growth doesn't just happen. So how do you get better at what you do?
Practice.
Think about it. Practice. Absolutely. How do you improve your relationships? How do you gain more depth and wisdom as a person? How do you gain insight? How do you overcome obstacles? Do you work harder? Do you work longer? Yeah, all those things. Do you wait for things to happen? Sometimes, yeah. Do you wait for things to get better? A lot of people do. Probably 98% of the people are like me with that dream, but they don't ever do anything about it. That's a huge part of the population. That's all of it, just about. If you focus on your goals, you may hit some goals, but that doesn't guarantee growth. But if you focus on growth, you'll grow and you'll hit your goals. So the idea is growth. Okay? The goals will happen with the growth. If you have dreams, goals, and aspirations, you need to grow to achieve them. But if you're like most people, you have one or more mistaken beliefs that'll keep you from growing. We're going to talk about 8 really quick here this morning. Okay? Everybody has one, or 2, or 3. Even the best leaders, didn't do that, meaning me, but even the best leaders have them. I have growth gaps. We all do. The first one is the assumption gap. Okay, and that's that I assume that I'll automatically grow. And we kind of grow up. We're babies. We start to grow a little. We're walking around. We eat different foods. Okay, we're growing. Okay, then we're learning new things. Okay, and we all up into puberty, up into 18, 19 years old, our bodies are actually growing and we're learning new things. Okay, but it really stops there. Okay, the physical growth. But we just assume sometimes that growth is going to still happen. You think that's true? A lot of people think that growth is just going to happen to them. Do you want to be a great leader? You must always be growing and let others catch you investing. You see, my first 30 years, I created many friends. I still, stay in touch with a few of them. They never grew. Those were the friends that I was living with at that time when I wasn't growing. They never grew. I got saved. I made the decision to grow, be intentional with my growth. Okay, those guys are stuck in the same stuff. They're just old and gray now. Okay, I mean, I'm looking good at 55. They're looking pretty rough. Am I lying? No. So, I think about that and I see, what? God was good. He was really good to me. And I'm so glad that I grabbed onto this intentional growing. I'm so glad that I have my non-negotiables. I'm so glad that I look at them every day and I utilize them as part of my life because every day I'm growing. My son recalls, after, and I've mentioned this before, I think, he remembers me just sitting around reading the dictionary. Okay, because I told you earlier, I didn't really go through much school, but I wanted to get better. So I started reading the dictionary. He caught me reading the dictionary a lot to learn, to increase my vocabulary. So it's something that I made a decision that I wanted to do. Okay, my restoration, some of you don't know, I was a pastor before. I walked away from the Lord for about 7-8 years. I came back to this house and I was restored here at this house. And it was very intentional the way I did it, step by step. Okay, there was some things that I had to get rid of, and I did it one at a time, very intentionally, and it worked good. It worked really good. So we have to be very intentional with our growth. Don't let the assumption gap fool you. You're not going to just grow. You have to put the time in. Second one is the knowledge gap. It says, I don't know how to grow. The average person spends more time planning their vacation than their personal growth. Why do people devote so little attention to such a vital concern? Oftentimes, people are unwilling to bet on themselves. They want others to invest in them, but they're unwilling to put their own time, money, and reputation on the line in order to better their lives. If you don't expect yourself to succeed, why should anyone else? You won't know how to grow until you've convinced that you have extraordinary potential and confident that you can fulfill it. I proved this out, okay, just recently. I started a Facebook page, okay? It's just very simple page. It's Jeff Redner, and it's personal coach, okay? All I do is I go on and say encouraging things, you know. I don't really sell anything on there, but I go on and say encouraging things. People love it. Like, you know, some of the things got 17,000 likes.
Wow.
Okay. So I've probably had 100 people talk to me about coaching. What is it? Tell them what it is. Well, how much does it cost? Well, I believe you really got to pay for something if it's going to work. But I don't make them pay much. You know, I say, well, you know, it depends. Couple $100. They run away. They don't want to invest in themselves. Okay, they've learned what the outcome could be, but they don't want to invest in it. But they'll plan something different. They'll do something else with their money instead of get better and, you know, pushing forward and you know, becoming greater at what they're doing. People will spend time thinking about how to spend money before they think about how to earn it. You know, they're daydreamers. Okay, they think about how to spend. You ever do that? Yeah, I thought about how I spend a lottery. I've done that. I'm guilty. Okay, they know what to do, but they'll never do it. They never have a plan. They're just a bunch of daydreamers. Okay, it's not because they lack the knowledge, because the knowledge is always available to them somewhere. It's because they're lazy and they decide not to go after the knowledge. The biggest gap in our lives is between what we know and what we actually do. At one time, I started a business with another gentleman, and it could have been a great thing. Great things were actually happening. Okay, this gentleman didn't want to put any time in. He had great talent, but he didn't want to put time into it. He didn't want to grow himself to the next level. So a person that could have been great at it, I had to cut him loose. And it's a shame, you know, because people don't want to put the time in. They don't want to put the time in. They don't want to get the knowledge to do it. The third one is the timing gap. It's not the right time. Is that anybody in here? It's not the right time. Lots of people embrace a philosophy that's pro-life and procrastination. It's true. They want to live it up today, so they delay doing anything requiring diligent effort and hard work. I can remember when I was a kid playing baseball, I'd have a game, you know, that afternoon, and I'd go to school in the morning, I'd have my baseball glove. I'd sit there thinking about baseball all day long. All day long. Get home, throw the glove across the handlebars on the bike and just scoot out of there. Seems like yesterday, but it was actually 40 years ago. Seems like yesterday. It flies. Young people in the room, don't doubt it. It might seem like it, you know, it takes forever to get to a certain age, you know, when you're growing up. But man, when you get to that age, it flies afterwards. It does. Just think what great accomplishment we'd have in the world if everybody had done what they intended to do. Most people don't act as quickly as they should on things. They find themselves subject to the law of diminishing intent, which says the longer you wait to do something you should do now, the greater the odds that you'll never do it, period.
Yeah.
Okay, it's true. I've been there. I've had it happen to me. The reality is that you will never get much done unless you go ahead and do it before you're ready to do it. You can't wait till you're ready, okay? If you wait till you're ready, you'll never get it done. Start it now. Start working on it now. If it's personal growth, make an effort. This isn't going to do it for you. This 1 week or one afternoon in the class together. This is awesome. This is free. It's awesome. But it's not going to do it for you. It's an everyday thing for you guys. You got to work on it every single day. What tomorrow brings is really what effort you put into today. That's the truth. It's all about today. Dreams have a shelf life. They do. They have a shelf life. God plants that dream in you, but it's not there forever. Use the gifts and talents. Today matters. Give 100% today. We exaggerate yesterday. Here's a good one. We exaggerate yesterday. We overestimate tomorrow, and we underestimate today. We exaggerate yesterday. Past is gone. It's gone. It's history. We overestimate tomorrow, and we underestimate today. Today's all you got. Wasting time keeps all the limits we place on ourselves on us. All those limits, all that programming that we learned as we're growing up keeps us honest. Tomorrow is what you do today. So what are y'all procrastinating? Here's an interesting statistic. Workers without vision, they waste 2.09 hours per day in an 8-hour workday. Okay, because they lack vision or because they're not doing anything with personal growth. 2.09 hours per day. That's if you take an average salary of, let's say, 40 grand, that's $10,500 per year per employee. That's not just a couple employees. That's a statistic based on every employee in America. 10,500 times probably 150 million working Americans. It's huge. Today's the day. Timing is today. The fourth one is the mistake gap. That means I'm afraid that I'll make mistakes. Is that anybody in the room? You haven't ventured out and done what you should because you're afraid to make mistakes. It's normal. It's not normal, but it's brought up, Whenever we dare to try anything great, we're going to fall somewhere along the way. You're guaranteed to mess up from time to time. Everybody messes up. Messed up yesterday. Avoiding mistakes doesn't bring success. It keeps you trapped at your current level of growth. Growing can be a messy business. It means admitting you don't have all the answers. It requires making mistakes, and it can make you look foolish. Trust me. Most people don't enjoy that, but that's the price of admission to be a leader and to be growing. That's the cost. If you want to grow, you need to get over any fear you may have of making mistakes. A mistake is simply another way of doing things. It is. It's how we learn. I've got a nickname. It's called Captain Risk. I like the name, honestly. But this was never one of my gaps because I'm not afraid of risk. I've always taken risks. And I've always been calculated with it, but I've always taken it, and I've always beat the risk. I'm not saying I don't make mistakes. I've made a lot of mistakes, but we're gonna make mistakes whether we risk or not. Okay. With my particular business, and I'll share with you a little bit. I'm a commercial roofer. And there's a lot of roofers in New York State. And I compete against guys from Albany, Syracuse, Buffalo, Rochester, and of course around here. Okay, I do state work. That's who I compete against. So there's a lot, and there's a lot of big roofers, and there's a lot of big roofers with big cash accounts, okay? It's tough. Competition's tough. So what I had to do is I had to begin to develop people and invest in people so that I could do the harder jobs. Okay, I chose the way for me. The only way to be successful was to do the hard jobs, the ones nobody wanted, the big jobs, the big nasty jobs. Okay, that was the only way to do that was to invest in people, grow myself. Otherwise, I'm doomed. Okay, but it's worked. Okay, that's what our business is, our company is about. Okay, and we've done well at it because of that investment in people and the investment to grow. You know, I bring guys in and we do the same thing right in my office. Okay, we do this. 5 non-negotiables. What are they? Lead yourself well, know your people, love your people, add value to people, cast your vision. Okay, that's what'll make you successful. Okay, and not being afraid to grow. But that's how we had to do it. Okay, we couldn't be afraid of the mistakes. I mean, honestly, I was fearful sometimes, but I did it, and I did it anyways. My guys were fearful. I've told the story the first time we got this a real huge job, about $4 million. You know, we walked into the facility. It's a big, huge prison, and they said, "Which roof are we doing?" And I said, "Well, we're doing all of them, boys." There was about 30 of them there. Okay, and they looked as scared as me. Okay, and quite honestly, I didn't know how we were going to do it, but I knew I was a roofer, and I knew I could make it happen, and we did it. And you know what? That particular style of roof, we've become the best in the state at doing. Okay, we are the best. Nobody can touch us when it comes to that. And if they do, they're in trouble because they're probably going to kill the banquet. Okay, we are the best at it. Okay, it's something we developed over time and over the years, but we had to take the risk on. We couldn't be afraid of making the mistake. Here's a good one. The person not willing to make a mistake is living one. The fifth gap is the perfection gap. Okay, this is where you have to find the best way to start, and it has to be perfect. This is kind of like the mistake gap, only the opposite end. Is that anybody? Yeah. Similar to the mistake gap is the perfection gap. This, the desire to find the best way to get started in a growth plan. When we're presented with the idea of a growth plan, we often go looking for the best way, but that has it backward. You have to get started if you want to find the best way. It's similar to driving on an unfamiliar road at night. Ideally, you'd like to be able to see your whole route as you're traveling down the road before you begin, but you see it progressively. As you go down the road, you see it a little more and more. If you want to see more of the way, then you got to get moving. Instead of constantly measuring where you are, instead of where you think you should be measuring where you used to be versus where you currently are. All right? Yeah. That's growth. That's how you measure growth. Okay, it's 80%. Do the 80-20 rule. If you've got a problem with perfection, okay, that means the plan only has to be 80% there. Okay, start the plan. Take the other 20% later and get 80% of that. Okay, now you're at like 99%. But you're never going to see the whole way. No, changes happen, things happen. How many companies started out doing one thing and never changed? Doesn't happen. You have to move. You have to constantly change. Technology, you know, great companies gone out of business. Kodak, you know, there's many that have. Because they didn't change, they didn't move, so they never saw the whole way. Even the greatest strategic plans always leave room for improvement and growth. Right? Yeah. Always do. A perfectionist will never reach their perfect goal, so they get caught in the gap. I don't think I was perfect. I was like, everything had to be perfect at home. I used to drive my wife crazy. She'd have to get groceries, and I had to take care of them because they had to go just every single way. You know? It's like that movie, Sleepless in Seattle or something like that. I don't know what it was, but suitcase. Huh?
Suitcase had to be.
Yeah, everything had to be perfect. She would put stuff on a table, a knick-knack on a table this way, and I'd go and bother me, so I go flip it around and put it the way it belonged, you know? But over the years, we kind of learned. Now I'm just sloppy. Every now and then it comes out, but we've kind of come together a little bit like that, you know. Her cooking the same way, you know. When we got married, she couldn't cook. But last night she made the best chicken cacciatore I've ever had. So, you know, we come together, you know. Things didn't have to be perfect. They never are. But as you go through the process, you know, things get better and better and better, and the plan works. You know, we have a great marriage. We couldn't have been farther apart, really. I mean, it was horrible. But, you know, we have a great marriage because of it. So you guys that struggle with the perfection gap, there's hope for you. The sixth one is the inspiration gap. It's like, I don't feel like doing it, you know? You have to be really inspired to do it. Is that anybody? Winners do what is right and then feel good as a result. Whiners want to feel good before they do what is right. Life involves an inescapable amount of pain, but it's far better to endure the pain of discipline today than to suffer the pain of regret later. Don't wait to be inspired. You know, inspiration's great. It moves you, it motivates you. But I found when you start, you know, that's when the inspiration really begins. Is when you got something going and okay, now it's going good. It's going good. Then you feel more inspired, more motivated, and you can just, you know, move through the growth process that much quicker. When I realized that I needed to be intentional about growing, I had thousands of reasons not to. All those pre-programmed thoughts in my head. Every one of them said, you don't need to do that. I didn't have the time, I didn't have the experience, and so on. I had only one reason to do it, and this is me. I wanted to make a difference. I didn't really feel like it, but I started. And I still don't feel like it sometimes, you know. It's not, you know, I don't feel like it. It takes work to grow. It really does. After a year of dedicated growth, my reason for putting in the work changed from getting started to staying with it because it did make a difference. You may not feel inspired to aggressively pursue a growth plan if you haven't started yet. Okay? If that's the case, then please trust me when I say that the reasons to keep growing far outweigh the reasons not to get started.
I have a question.
Yes.
Going back to the mistake gap one, if you make like a really big mistake, not like in ministry, like in business, where you just like if you screwed up somebody's roof so badly, you like put it on upside down or something, how long would it take for like other people to hear about it to like have that get that out of their minds so they trust you again?
Well,
You know what I mean?
let me tell you what happened to me once. I went and put a roof on the wrong place one time. I did. Wrong building. It was supposed to be the building next door. All right. I didn't communicate that well. Thank God it wasn't a huge building. It was one day, you know. It's like I'm talking to my foreman, and it's like something isn't jiving. You know, what's going on here? Well, we didn't set the meeting. We didn't set the job up right. All right. We looked foolish. I did. But what you do after that is really what matters. It's what you do. You know, mistakes, even you learn from mistakes, but even if you make a mistake with a client or in ministry, it's what you do afterwards that really makes the difference. So a mistake could be a good thing. Okay. Mistakes build integrity. I mean, how are you going to get integrity if you don't make mistakes? Really, how are you going to do it? You can't. It's impossible. You have to make mistakes to get integrity.
Thank you.
Is that good?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the inspiration gap. There's so many distractions to inspire the look of intentional growing. Is it ugly sometimes? Who loves to read and read and read and read? But, you know, who loves to apply it afterwards and who loves to study it? I mean, it's tough. For me, it is. What are your blockers? You know, what are your blockers to that intentional growth? Or another good question is, who are the blockers to intentional growth for you? Who? You know, does anybody want to be wealthy? Not all of you want to be wealthy. Okay? If you want to be wealthy, what's keeping you from being wealthy? Okay? If you want to be wealthy, why not sit down 10 minutes, 15 minutes a day and think about it and make a plan to get wealthy? You know, that's what I did. That's how I found success with myself. Is I had the people that said you can't do it, but I made the plan. You know, once I got everything together, I made the plan. So what keeps you? You want to be wealthy. What keeps you from sitting down for 10 minutes a day at a table and writing down notes on how to get wealthy, how to do it? What would your plan look like? The seventh one is the comparison gap. This is where I get stuck sometimes. Okay? Like last week, Pastor was at a retreat. We were at a Christian camp retreat. He taught on Monday. Okay? And then I'm going down to teach on Tuesday. So he goes down, he teaches. He calls me up 2 hours later. He says, "It was awesome." He said, "I set you up big tomorrow." I said, "They're all going to be coming. They're expecting great things." And I'm like, "Shh, I hope nobody shows up." But, he set me up, and I didn't want to be set up because I knew I was following him. He's a tough act to follow, right? So the comparison gap has always been one of my struggles. Well, can I preach as good as him? Can I do this as good as him? When it comes to that part of my life. When I got saved when I was 30, I've been to 4 churches since I was 30. And every church that I went to, I always went to the highest people in the church and made friends with them because I wanted to move up to their level. Okay? So, I would go see the pastors. When I was 30 years old, I was like best friends with Mayor of Elmira, who was the retired chief of police. Because I wanted growth in my life. I wanted to be around people like that. So that's how I beat the comparison thing. Is I just went around them best I could, gleaned everything that I could from them. When I first started pursuing personal growth, I was always trying to catch up. I told you I had to read the dictionary. Had to learn the English language. I was always trying to catch up. I was always spending time with people farther ahead of me in growth. I often felt like that I was in over my head, and you will. Does anybody feel like that sometimes? You're in over your head. You got this dream, but it's more than you can do. It's not. It's not. It's what you're thinking of yourself. Okay? When you're around another person and you think they're more talented than you, well, they might be more talented with you than in this one area, but that's one area. What does it say in the Bible about the body of Christ? Right. We all have value. Right. Okay? Your dreams, your gifts, your talents, they're based around that value that you already have. Okay? It's built into you that way. I had to work hard to get over my comparison gap, and I still haven't. I just shared that with you. Okay? I had to learn to become comfortable with being out of my comfort zone. We're all pushed that way all the time. I heard Pastor one time say that he does things that he hates to do just to get that behind him, okay? To always be out of his comfort zone. I've done things that I hate to do, but I don't look for them. I should be. It's sometimes still a difficult transition, but it is stretching me. Build in programming to compare ourselves to others who are better at certain talents. And some of y'all did the DISC and the behaviors and the motivators and DISC, and we found out how we are. What motivates us and what are our styles. And we're all different. We're all different. Some of us don't pair up well like this, but we're a team. And that's what the team needs. You know, remember the wheel? For those of you that didn't see the wheel, we had the wheel and we had everybody on the staff around the wheel. And, you know, it just showed that, you know, we were good as a team, but it showed where we were lacking too, you know. Had it pegged out right. Had you two as coordinators.
Makes sense.
Remember that? But that's how it is. We don't have to compare. Don't compare. Don't let that be a gap for growth. Okay? If you're going to compare yourself to another company, another person in ministry, that's just going to keep you sitting in your chair. Don't let it be a growth gap for you. Challenge ourselves to get comfortable in our own skin, doing what we do best and complimenting others. The last one is the expectation gap. I thought it would be easier than this. Anybody think that?
Yes.
I don't know how any successful person who thinks growth comes quickly and climbing to the top is easy. It never was easy for anybody. Okay, was it easy for you? No. Was it easy for anybody else in the room? No. It's not easy. It's going to take work. Okay, people create their own wins. That's one thing I tell people all the time, man. Create a win every day in your life. Find a way to get a win every day. Doesn't have to be huge wins. It can be little wins, but get a win every day. So here's a win. Preparation, which is growth, plus attitude, plus opportunity, plus action, which is doing something about it. That's a win. It all starts with preparation. And unfortunately, that takes time, but here's the good news. You cannot change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction. Okay? And that's part of the hang up for some people. They wanted to change their destination overnight. But really, if it just changes your direction and you get on the right road to where you want to go, and then you stay consistent and you get there, because it isn't going to happen overnight and it isn't going to be easy. So don't expect it to be. So start out by removing expectations and just do it. Keep a record of your wins. Do it. Keep a record. Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. If you're not willing to learn, here's what Zig Ziglar says. If you're not willing to learn, then no one can help you. If you're determined to learn, then no one can stop you. If we're growing, we're always going to be out of our comfort zones. Now, I told you about my business. But, you know, really, I have to reinvent my business every year. Now, what I said about building tomorrow out of today is true. We've got all the pieces in place. But I don't have merchandise that I sell. I don't have clients that I keep. Every year, things change. And I have to reinvent that business every year and get a win. So 17 years, I have to continue to get, I could start out this year and not get anything. Okay, so I have to go for it every year, year in, year out. Keeps it interesting, but you know, it does. It keeps pressure on. Growth, pressure, work together. The sooner you make the decision to become intentional about spanning these growth gaps, the better. Growth compounds, just like money in the bank. Well, money in a good investment, put it that way. It accelerates if you remain active in pursuing it. Here's how to change. First of all, ask yourself this question. Where do I want to go in life? Ministry, business. But here's the big question. What's the farthest that you can imagine going? Do it now. Don't make it a priority for later. Because later, a lot of times, doesn't even happen. Start the process now or continue the process. Continue the process. Keep taking steps and find the resources. There's resources available to everybody here. Find a mentor. You know, go after that person that's here and you want to go there. Be around them. That's how you'll grow. Face the fear factor. Yeah, face the fear factor. We all have fears, but we have faith. Which emotion is going to be stronger, in you? It's whatever you feed. Feed your faith, make it happen. Change from incidental growth to intentional. Make a decision to be the intentional grower. Don't look for the easy way. The easy way is never the right way. It's the road that's less traveled that is really the right way. Okay? You can go with the flow, but the flow isn't always going to end up at the right place. Don't learn by accident, learn on purpose. Don't just experience life, go out and create it. Okay? That's how you create life, is with your growth. Do it. It doesn't just happen, you go after. So you got action items, okay? And we're just about wrapping up. I have some action items. First of all, which of the growth gaps have caused you to neglect growing? Remember, we got the assumption gap, the knowledge gap, the timing gap, the mistake gap, the perfection gap, the inspiration gap, compassion, and expectation. And this is real. I mean, these 8 gaps cover just about anything. And one of these 8 gaps is keeping you from growing. You have to identify which ones are keeping you from growing, and you have to work on those. What strategies can you create to bridge the gaps? Write a plan for each gap that affects you and start it today. Can we do that? Mm-hmm. Watch your calendar for the amount of time that you spend on personal growth. It's really easy to go home from work and say you're tired and sit down and waste a whole evening. It really is. I've done it on many occasions. It's easy, but you don't grow. You could waste it on social media. You could waste it on a lot of things, but you're really not growing from it. Watch your calendar. Put yourself on the calendar. Start it now. Do it every day. You may not feel like doing it, but do it anyway. Do it anyway. So do the action items. That's pastor's homework. Not pastor's job to do that, but you turn that into pastor. Okay. Is he still charging $25? I think he is.
Yeah.
All right. By the way, you don't see me in this class, but I am in my office watching this every week.
About form, he always comments.
Okay. So I am here with you. I am growing with you. Okay. And it's a privilege to be here today. I was glad to be here today. I hope that you can identify the gaps that are keeping you from growing. You can start using the tools that you have. Okay. Unlearn whatever's keeping you from learning. Okay. Unlearn it. So thank you everybody for being online. If you haven't registered for the conference yet, it's next week.
Yeah.
It's Monday. We'll see you then. Thank you.
Thank you.